old. And I realize something now. You know what? Man, my parents weren't old. Okay? Because I don't necessarily feel old. I don't think of myself as being old. But I begun to look at things from a different perspective now. That, you know what, there is a time here where, you know, most of my life is behind me. Most of my life's behind me. What am I going to do with what I have in front of me means so much more to me now. I have 2 daughters that are married, a 3rd daughter going to get married, and my baby, who will always be my baby because they're the youngest, you know, she's starting college, or she's starting high school. You finally got one graduating. I talked to your son yesterday. Man, did you ever think that day would come? No. But what we need to realize is the simple fact, as we live our lives, we better make every day count. I don't care if you're 40 today, or if you're 50 or 60 or 70 or 80 or even 100, as we have a centurion in our presence. We better make sure we make every day count. Because we don't know. We better be out there fighting. Because the devil's not going to stop fighting us. And we better be out there doing something for the cause of Christ. He was out there. He was going. He was continuing to do something. You know, as I look at our congregation, I'm thankful for the simple fact that we have people still in our congregation that are out there fighting. We have somebody like Beverly Wilson, who is with her sister today up in Amarillo, so that's why she's not here. But here's Beverly Wilson, who sang for us last week and cleaned the church this week, and she will clean the church next week. We have somebody like Emmett Bennett, who will clean the church, still goes visiting with me. We have people like Peggy and Sheila and Laura Sutherland working in the nursery. Guess what? They don't have any babies. But they're still there. Now, you have a grandbaby, so that helps, okay? But, you know, we've got people doing things. We have people cleaning, and we got people helping. And you know what? I don't want to use the word older. They're more seasoned than some of you younger couples. We had Elizabeth got up, did something today. Had a reading for us. We have Patty teaching the boys. We had a bunch of boys. I heard you had a bunch of boys today too. A bunch of boys. Wednesday night. You know what? We got to keep doing things. Praise the Lord. Because what it shows that we're still active, still doing something for the Lord. And you need to do that. I don't care how old you are, you could still get out there. You could still help. He was still out there battling. But the simple fact of the matter was, David was still fighting, but David had changed. I cannot do the things that I used to do when I was 25. I've been in the ministry now. This is my 25th year of being in the ministry. Man, when I graduated from college, man, I still love the ministry. Man, I would do something with my youth group at least twice a week. I loved spending time with teenagers. Of course, I didn't have any kids, and it was easy. I was a little more than a teenager myself. And like Brother Jeff did this week, man, I would have all-night activities. I would do stuff with them. I'd play basketball all the time. You know what? At 48, even the thought of an all-night activity is Why? Why do you even want to stay up all night? Playing basketball? That just don't sound like a whole lot of fun to me anymore. A couple of weeks ago, we have this one boy who comes to plays basketball. He lives down the street, and we tried to get him to come to church. I can't get him to come to church. But he comes to play basketball on our hoop. Let me take a shot. And I get it, and I thought, I'm going to show this kid up. The old man bends down. Whew, error, just nothing but error. Didn't even hit the net, man. Just didn't even make it there. I just realized something. I've changed. David had changed. David was still fighting. But the Bible simply said this. He would begin to lose strength. Guess what, folks? Some of you younger couples in here. One of the greatest men since I've been in this congregation is Drew Sutherland. I don't think there's been anybody that's been more supportive of me. Now the men have, all the church has. But Drew has always been a real blessing to me. Always been very supportive of him, especially when we moved on the same street. That he would see me and he'd wave and he'd stop sometimes and talk. You know what? Drew Sutherland is not the same Drew Sutherland when I came to this congregation 12 years ago. It's not the same Emmett Bennett. Now, I'm not saying that they can't still do stuff. But they're not the same Emmett Bennett. I'm not the same Wes Bygel I was 12 years ago. The simple fact of the matter is times change. David had gotten a little bit older. Still wanted to fight. And I still think he should have been out there leading. But guess what? He just did not have the strength anymore to fight. And the simple fact of the matter is, if you're older today, we still love you. We still want you to be involved. Obviously, I want you to be involved. But guess what? We've changed. Now, how did David change? Well, obviously his strength wasn't as great, but I think he was changed for the better. And what do you mean, changed for the better? You know what David had now that he didn't have when he fought Goliath the first time? He had a whole lot of experience. I guarantee you this. David may not have been able to kill Ishbi-Benob, but he knew how to. In fact, he probably knew how better then than he did before. We who are a little bit older, we need to realize something. As we grow older, we have something called experience. Now, if you're younger today, I'm going to get you in a little bit, but so hang on with me. Don't turn me off. We have experience. David had great experience of great victories in his past. Drew says, I'm going to point out something here in a little bit. Man, he had great victories. He could go back and he could talk about the victories that he had. He could go back and begin to talk about all the wonderful things that had happened in his life. He could talk about how great victories that he had spiritually, and he could talk about the Psalms that he wrote. He could talk about the different things that had happened in his life, maybe politically, as he had begun to develop that nation of Israel. He had experienced great victories. And all of us have experienced great victories sometime in our lives. I guarantee it. Talk to Brother Emmett, you'll hear about great victories. We can go and we can live our lives, and we have these great victories in many ways in our lives, and we also have experienced some bitter defeats. Even in the midpoint of my life, I realize something as I look back on my 25 years of ministry. I've had some great victories, but I've also had some pretty bad defeats where I blew it. think if you're part of my generation or a little bit older, we've had great victories and we've had some defeats. David had some defeats. At this point in David's life, he has buried 3 sons. At this point in his life, he's survived 2, shall we say, political coups. 2 people have tried to overthrow his kingdom. He has had some real struggles in his life. He's had some horrible spiritual things happen to his life as he has failed miserably spiritually with Bathsheba. He sent men to battle who have died. He has experienced some defeats. And every one of us who are 50 and above or 45 and above, let's put it that way, we've experienced great victory, but we've also experienced great defeat. And you know who needs to hear that? Everybody around us. The people around us. Now, you young people who are here, we got some here and here and here, scattered through our, and there's one there. Realize something. When we tell you about our defeats, we are not glorying in our past sin. And that never gives you an excuse to sin, just so you can experience defeat. Because we don't want you to experience any sort of defeat. But as our generation, we need to tell about our defeats. We need to share our experiences. We need to tell people about how we were successful and maybe how we were defeated. They're not here today, but I really encourage you to spend some time with the Withers. Because that's a couple, especially if you're having marriage problems. You need to spend some time with somebody who's been married 60 years. Just simply for the fact that they can tell you what works and what didn't work. You're going through different struggles in your life, and you may be going through how to be successful in your life. You know, some of you young people, what you need to do is you need to find somebody who's successful in your life and how to be a success. I guarantee you they will tell you what made them successful. You're having problems in school, or you're struggling maybe in some area educationally. You know who you need to go to? He's got a little gray in his beard there. Now, he has young kids, but he has a little gray. There's no one better in our church to talk to than Brother Renee. I mean, he, as a young person, was struggling, a little driftless. A teacher helped him, pointed him in the right direction, and he's a professor now. You want to do something in different areas of your life? Man, find somebody who's been a success. And as a church, what we need to do is we need to realize they are our church in the future. Now, they're members of our church now, obviously. And we need to understand they're part of our church now. But what we need to understand, man, they are the ones who need to take over when we leave. David was willing to share that success. Both his successes and his failures. He had this great future. He had this great knowledge. He had changed, but he had wonderful knowledge. We need to share that. I think sometimes we need to be like Solomon, who had both his success, and he wrote it down in Proverbs, and his failures, and he wrote it down in Ecclesiastes. But David's strength waxed faint. He was still susceptible to falling. And as I say, whether we're 12, whether we're 102, we're all susceptible to falling. David's strength was waxing faint. He was losing strength. As we grow older, one thing that we need to